Wellington for the dream start.
Welcome to another episode. My name is Dean Vass. You can find me on X at #Kangas, Instagram #Kangaroos podcast. Tonight, I welcome back Dom, Frank, Jesse. There's a lot to go through tonight, boys. I'm not going to muck around with introductions. We are here to preview the game coming up against the Saints this Sunday. But before we do that, let's start with you, Frank. You came in last, so I wouldn't mind getting your thoughts on, maybe not too many thoughts, on the game last week. Did you want to add anything to that deplorable performance?
No, Dean. I walked away, Dean, and talking to people that, later that night and even the next day, I was racking my brain to think, have we ever been 106 points down at three-quarter time? At least, say, from that I can remember from, say, the modern AFL era. And so technically I was kind of saying that was the worst three-quarters of football I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, well, that's a pretty strong start there, Frank. Dom, welcome to the show. Any different thoughts to Frank there?
Well, I mean, Frank struggling to find the last time we were down by that much at three-quarter time. For me, I can't remember the last time we beat Geelong. Or I think it was in a final with Goldie taking that mark to save it. But yeah, it was pretty hard watching, and I didn't get much past halftime. Unfortunately, I just my emotions, and I was sick of kicking the dog by that point, so it was just safer just to turn it off.
Fair enough, Jesse. I know you've always got something positive to say.
I got told to have a Snickers after last week, so I'm going to try and be more upbeat this week. As upbeat as possible. At least it wasn't 120 points. Let's put it that way. That's probably
102 even, Jesse.
Yeah, well, 102. Yeah, that would have
been
the
last
worse.
quarter. Jeez.
Look, I don't know what positives we take out of it other than maybe O'Sullivan's midfield time. That looked good. And look, I guess the last few years, how many times have we lost by 100 plus in the last few years? Would it be at least twice a year? Like last year, we would have lost. Did we lose by 100 plus last year? We must have at least.
Yeah,
once.
The last game I think was about.
That was 124. Yeah.
We must have done it at least twice last year. I mean, this was by far our worst loss this year. The only thing that comes close to it is that Carlton game. In my mind, we've had some ones where it's blown out, but this and the Carlton game are probably the two for me where you sit there and watch it and you just, all of that hope and all of that progress that you think you've made as a club, it just seems endless in terms of us being in this cycle. And there's no way out. So it's tough. It's tough. But all you can keep doing is fronting up and hoping that, they show more fight and that we start to see some positive signs, and try not to ignore that we have seen a few signs this year, but there is also data that suggests that we have a lot of work to do. And I'm not seeing the progress, unfortunately, in some areas of our game.
A lot of talk about that during the week, Jesse. There's a lot of people that would agree with that, particularly in the media. Now, I want to go to Clarkson's post-match presser and saying we lost by losing the middle of the ground in a contest there. Now, straight after Sunday, I think it was on First Crack, Montagna and Kingy said, well, no, that's not it. Your defensive system was terrible. You have experienced players like Logan, Caleb Daniel, who refuse to be accountable for anything. There's a lot more to it than just losing the middle of the ground, Frank. Defensively, I've never seen such a performance like that where we just left a Coleman medalist easy goals to get out the back of 2 or 3 times quite comfortably, and a number of other times we didn't show him any respect. It was one of the most bizarre performances defensively I've seen for a long time, Frank.
Well, even at the start of the first bounce, Dean, the first thing I looked for is who's playing on Cameron, and his direct opponent was Caleb Daniel for the first centre bounce. And I know that was probably a bit of a mismatch. They wanted to drag. They probably wanted to drag Caleb Daniel down into a back pocket. We wanted to play him up as at half back, and so we rolled with that. But I mean, he kicked the first 3 goals from it, and why we didn't react to that, well, who knows? But defensively, the way we set up, the amount of confusion, even when the ball was in our forward 50, trying to set up a defensive wall was chaos. And as soon as it got through our half forward line, it was basically a free-for-all.
Yeah, there was some pretty ordinary stuff there. He also mentioned, Jesse, he was trying to hold out as long as he could before putting Comber back. Now, Comber was very good in the last quarter. I think he had 8 possessions, 5 intercepts. Obviously did that horrible turnover that cost us a goal. But we're 106 points down, I think, at three-quarter time, 107 or whatever it was. And that's when he made the move. I mean, how much longer do you want to wait, Jesse, before you sort of make that move?
I thought it was pretty obvious that the only player we had who could go with Jezza from a defensive perspective was going to be Comden. That's just what my thought was going into the game, because he's a bit quicker than our other defenders, and obviously they didn't see it. You could have tried any of the other defenders forward and swapped it, because he was irrelevant. I think Kingy said he was irrelevant for 3 quarters. So you've taken your best, you're probably your best defender and made him irrelevant for 3 quarters. It just seemed bizarre coaching to me. Surely after 5 goals, you need to make a change. It shouldn't take 10 or however many he'd kicked to three-quarter time to go, oh crap, I've got to do something about this. It's just, Look, it is very, very bizarre. It's just unfortunately something we're seeing a little bit of this year. We're just seeing slow reaction when it comes to coaching, in my mind anyway. It's very, very disappointing.
Now, I wanted to highlight a few things, and I've got one for you, Dom. You're saying how young our backline was, injuries to key players, and saying we aren't making excuses. But it felt like his whole press conference was excuses, Dom. I mean, that's all he was doing. Like, he wasn't dealing with the actual game. He was just sort of saying, we've got all the injuries, we know where we're at, and so forth. I mean, how did you see it?
I would have loved to have been a reporter in the crowd and said, you've spoken about for the last however many weeks about wanting to be in games longer. What did you do in the course of that to try and get us back into that game, or at least congest things up a little bit? I don't think anyone as a North supporter would have cared if it was a slow, contested game against Geelong. If we want to play against those teams, I don't care if it's messy, and then open the game up in the last quarter. And if you lose by 50 points in the last quarter because they're just better, but at least you've given us a chance. We were out of that game, halfway through the second quarter. So what were you doing to help us getting that game longer? And what was the strategy behind that? Because, Lord knows I couldn't see it out there.
Now, it can't all be on Alistair Clarkson and the fault of his, because I mentioned last week the attitude stunk. I don't know, and we'll talk about team selection soon, but the players sitting there giggling with the opposition, like Jeremy Cameron, the captain laughing at halftime, having a good old chuckle with Liam Humphreys, and then getting outmarked by a fringe player in the third quarter, Liam Humphreys again. All good and well, getting players into a huddle after the game and chatting then. But show some fight and passion. Talk is cheap after a game when it didn't look like you really cared when it mattered, Frank.
Oh, absolutely, Dean. I think it ran rampant through the entire midfield, particularly after quarter time. I think our template this year in games like this is we show a little bit of vigour for the first 15, 20 minutes. We get 3 or 4 goals down, and then the energy just disappears. And it was really evident on Saturday night where defensively the midfield didn't work anywhere near hard enough. The turnovers when we did get the ball were horrible. And as they highlight on a few of the footy shows, defensively we jogged back. And then you wonder why they carved us up. I think Geelong are the best, most efficient side in the comp for kicking or disposal efficiency. And I think we're probably one of the worst, if not the second worst. I think the Eagles might be worse than us. But, I mean, you've basically got a side that loves to cut through defences playing against a side that doesn't run back hard enough. It was a perfect storm.
I mean, we all cop smashings in life in general, Jesse, but there doesn't seem to be any hurt either. It's far too easily accepted. And it's almost the culture now. The results and the effort speak for themselves. Probably not just last week, but the last 5 weeks. You mentioned just before when we started, Jesse, that we copped a 124-point drubbing in the last round last year. We've lost a lot of games. You know, the week before we lost by 16 goals to the Western Bulldogs second last round. I mean, it's far too easily accepted, these sorts of bad defeats.
Oh, look, I think you just said it. It has become part of our culture. That's the best way of saying it. It's become part of our culture, and it seems, behind the scenes, I'm sure that Clarko is laying the law down in the rooms, but the message is obviously being lost somewhere. Now, is that just because the players are too soft? Is it that the players aren't listening? Is it, I don't know what it is, but I think you've got to put some heat on them publicly. I don't think you can just in public just say, oh, we know where we're at, we know we need to be better, but it's going to come, it's going to come, it's going to come. Well, when? It just, it seems way too accepting. And like the fact, and I know we'll get to it in terms of selection, but the one thing we should have is selection integrity, and we don't have that.
Yeah, and that's a big issue at the moment. Look, we'll definitely talk about selection soon, but I'm not particularly happy with the selection and some players that are missing out and some players that seem to be getting the game given to them. Dom, I mean, last 5 weeks, we've been very, very ordinary. I think we're last in contested possession. We had, similar last year, we had a good period there for 5 or 6 weeks, but throughout the course of the 24-week season, it's got to be more than just 5 or 6 weeks because we've still got 4 more weeks to go. It's going to be very hard to see this turn around in the last month and, almost get a couple of wins.
Yeah, I feel like, the Carlton game was almost like a bit of a grand final for us. And, then they looked at the next body of games after that and realised it was probably not going to happen. So why even try? I know that's harsh to say, but that's how it looks like to the fans. And just on your point of what you were just saying earlier, I understand that Clarko wants to protect his players and, he's probably not the type anymore to kind of go out, and especially a young list, go out and publicly, name players or call them out or whatever. But in the void of not saying anything, someone needs to be able to step up. And I saw some chatter on Twitter yesterday around Harry Sheezel, fronting up at AFL 360. Why is it Harry? Why isn't it, Jen Watt or Sonia Hood or, one of these senior members of staff stepping up and just calling it out and saying, we don't accept where we're at, whilst, it's not up to Clarko to be accountable and responsible for, the 3 and 4 years before he started, that Jen was there, Jen and Sonia were there, right? That they can be the ones to say that they're not happy and they're not satisfied and this is what they're doing and this is how they're supporting the club and this is the investments that's going into the footy department this is the strategy behind what what they're going to be doing once the soft cap goes up and these are the things that I think as members we need to be hearing. Because right now with no one speaking, it's you're relying on people like Marnie Cohen and bless her for going out there and getting people like David King to be able to, who are passionate about the club, to sort of fill that void. And I think it's poor leadership. And when the only thing that we've got to judge is the performance on the field, well, you've failed dismally. And at the end of the day, you're there to produce a quality performance for your members, your quality product for your sponsors, and the leadership of the club is failing. So, call them out on that. Where are you?
Yeah, the leadership goes both ways. It's on and off the field. Very well said there, Dom. I couldn't agree more with you. I mean, they seem to put Harry Sheezel in the limelight a lot. And, at the front, and look, AFL 360 were very good. They didn't, get stuck into him and blame him for anything. But he handles himself very well. We'll move forward. Injuries. So we've got Aiden Core still a week or two away. CCJ 2 weeks. Josh Goda 3 weeks. You probably have to think the season. Nikolaki is back. Cooper Harvey is available after his illness. Jai Simpkin injured. He's out for this week. Don't know what the story is there. Archer, Bergman, Luke McDonald, Darcy Tucker, all out for the rest of the season. Now, I wouldn't mind getting your thoughts. I'll get each of your thoughts on the player that are rumoured to be possible chasing. Frank, any thoughts on Jake Lever? 178 games and will be 30 years old when the season starts next year. Birthday's in March. Still contracted till 2028.
Yeah, 3 years to
Would
run.
you be happy to get Jake Lever and turn his club around?
As a salary dump, Dean? Yeah, absolutely. But I would not. But Melbourne are not going to cast him aside with 3 years to run on his contract. And as crazy as look, we've done some weird things when it comes trade time. But I wouldn't be investing anything beyond a third round pick on him if it's a salary. Yeah, like a late third rounder or something like that as a salary dump. Yep, okay. You certainly, if he was out on hard rubbish, you'd pick him up. But I certainly wouldn't go and pursue a guy at that age with that kind of contract. I just suspect Melbourne are going to want a king's ransom for him, and I'm worried that we'll actually stump it up. So for me, it's a hard no.
Oh, yeah, for me, it's an easy no. Jesse, maybe you might sell some hope on him. You think he's going to get back to the 2021 form where he averaged 10.3 intercepts a game, was a big part of their premiership team?
Look, I think right now he'd be a better option than Aiden Core or Griffin Logue. That's just, if we're going to play...
That's probably saying something about those players.
Well, no, it is. It absolutely is. I think he would be a better option than those two. I think that if you're taking into account if you're saying we need an experienced defender, I think it's because I think it screams volume about the quality of those two guys in the team. And I don't have an issue with getting he wouldn't be the one. I agree with Frank. If it's not gonna cost us anything on the draft table, and it's just money, then I'm okay with it. I've got no problem with it. That's fine. But if it's but you wouldn't be giving up capital for him, surely. Like that just would make absolutely no sense. It would be a disgrace if we did that.
Dom, a big part of his game is intercepts, and he's almost averaging career low this year, 6.5 a game. He's been in and out of the team. A lot of injuries as well this year. I don't like the idea of getting a player that's on a downward hill slope of his career. I don't think he's got much upside any more than what he is. Still 3 years. I mean, I think Melbourne would be happy to get rid of him almost because they've got a lot of other defenders that are coming through. Do you feel differently about him at all?
No, and all I'll point to is whilst we can go back in time and look at some of the success stories that we've had of bringing in the likes of a Nick Del Santo or Sean Higgins to play out the end of their careers at a club and give more than they've taken. I think there's a track record of us not doing very well in that regard as well. And just to name a few, like we've got some of them on our list right now that I think haven't worked, like Griff Logue. But also there's Jared Pollock in recent times as well. Why do we think that this would be any different? Like, why wouldn't we invest our time, effort, and resources in a 25-year-old and who's a Victorian who's playing at an interstate club, maybe getting a little bit itchy feet to come home or something like that, and go hard after someone like that? I don't know who that player would be. Jesse might be a bit more equipped to identify who a good name would be in that regard, but I'd rather be spending our resources there.
Well, there is rumours that, and I've got it on good word, that Alistair Clarkson a couple of weeks ago did meet with Buku Kamas from the Western Bulldogs, who's, that's the type of player you could understand. 25 years old, not really in and out of the Bulldogs team, has definitely got upside. I just don't like this Jake Lever idea of just trying to put Band-Aids on broken arms, Jesse. I mean, it just doesn't make much sense to me.
No, it doesn't. And look, I think that we do need to have a look around the competition and see what players we can bring in who aren't getting a game elsewhere. As long as it's not costing us anything, I've got no issue bringing in experience. Look, I'll put it this way. Kingy said it really, really well. People are going to continue to compare us to Richmond, and they're going to continue to say Richmond have gone ahead of us in a rebuild. The fact of the matter is that Richmond has 6, 7, 8 premiership players in their team. Yeah. Most of their defense are premiership players. Plus then they've got, Taranto and Hopper in the midfield, who are pretty decent midfielders. So their only really young part of the team is up forward. And then their other lines have young players in there, but it helps. It helps. We have some guys who are over 30, and then realistically, between the age of probably 26 and 30, there's just a bare cupboard. Maybe 27 and 30. But that's where Richmond has, and even the over 30s are really over 30 for the most part, compared to Richmond having a prime, a prime core. I think that they still know at the club that we are lacking players in that high 20s age bracket, but unfortunately that's generally when players are at their peak, and you're not going to attract them unless they can't get a game, meaning we have to bring in players who aren't getting a game and have a punt on them. I've got no issue with that, as long as we're not giving up capital for them. That's why I didn't necessarily have a problem with us giving up a pick for Darling, giving up a pick for Parker, giving up a pick for Daniel. In hindsight, looks bad, but I didn't have a problem at the time. And I understand the idea of doing it because we're not going to attract, you'd have to be, no one's coming to us unless
no one decent,
yeah. So we've got to find other strategies of getting a core group of players in, and I think there is a part of me that says we need to make some hard calls in terms of if there are players on our team who are worth anything, who we think we can move on for some more capital. We do need to try and bring players in. Now it's tough. This year's draft is meant to be pretty crap, and next year's Tassie is in it. So it's not easy.
No, definitely not. For me, Frank, I don't mind. Like if you're going to get defenders, I mean, look at your own cupboard. I mean, you can build a defence. I think we've seen enough of Will Dawson.
Yeah.
And even Charlie Comben. You can build a defence around those two as your key pillars. You can have one of Toby Pink or Griffin Logue or Aiden Core as your third defender. I'd look at our own backyard and try and develop those players. There's no point getting these players from other clubs and then trying to develop them into your system.
Mate, everyone, Dean, remembers that Robbie Tarrant was a slow burn at North. Scotty Thompson didn't exactly hit the ground running when he first arrived. Charlie Comben, I think he played his 9th game in his 5th year at North. And Will's already done that. Yeah, he's a really raw-boned kid, but I like his attitude. I like the fact that he stands up for himself. He doesn't take a backward step. He's lacking a little bit here and there, but I wouldn't be chasing someone like a Jake Lever until we're pretty confident that Will Dawson's hit his ceiling and that, okay, he's not going to play in our next finals campaign kind of thing. But I'd really like to expose him to more football. My only fear is, and like Jesse touched on before, I think someone pointed out that there's no player out on the ground on Saturday that Will Dawson played with in his 4th game. Right, so he's basically playing in a new team from his 4th game to his 9th game. And for stability and picking up good habits, I don't know whether he's looking left and right and picking up good habits, but I still would prefer to invest game time into someone like Will Dawson and see what he's capable of.
Dom, do you think, like, if we did end up getting Jake Lever, they'll try and play 5 key position defenders next year? Lever, Dawson, Lowe, who's the others? Toby Pink, Comben.
Yeah, who knows? It'd be incredibly frustrating if that was to occur. But
we don't want to take that's the problem. We get Jake Lever, it might put Will Dawson in the reserves. That's the fear I have, Dom.
Yeah, and then you've got they've gone and taken Cooper Trembath at whatever pick it was in the mid-season draft as well. Geelong have proven that you can go look at that, look at those drafts and look at the the VFL and affiliate leagues and pull players out of that and develop them into good talent as well. I don't want to. Pink has done well, right? He has. I think for most of us, he would have exceeded expectations. Again, I would much rather us investing time, energy, and resources into working out if we do see a gap between now and when Matt Whitlock is ready to take on the big key forward, key back role. Then let's go find the most cost-effective upside way of doing that, where we don't have to pay overs. Because I think also what it seems, I feel like North Melbourne is treated as the club, the retirement fund club. It's where B grade players and C grade players can go play to North Melbourne, earn A grade salaries, not give a shit about I thought about this on the weekend, right? Like you know when we celebrated the centenary and we saw those players walk out and with Pagan and go out onto the field, how many of that starting 23 that were on that list or that were on that field will be at the 150th celebration, right? How many of them are going to care about the club enough to want to rock up to the 150th celebration? And there weren't many. And I guarantee you it's not Griffin Logue and Caleb Daniel and those guys. So I'd rather focus on talent that actually gives a shit about the jump on.
Yeah, 100%. Look, I won't be alive probably to see it, but the 150, maybe the 125, could be.
It's only 50 years away. Come on, if you're right.
No, I'm cooked. So this club's going to kill me pretty soon, Dom. So yeah. Now I'm going to go through some former players that have crossed from the Saints. There's only been a few. So in 2000, we did a trade with St Kilda, Joe McLaren for Matthew Capuano, Premiership player Matthew Capuano. Who played 12 games, Joe McLaren, a midfielder. Farron Ray played 4 games in 2016, was definitely at the end of his career, retired after that year, after a number of soft tissue injuries, after a 209-game career with the Saints and Bulldogs. But the big one, Jesse, Nick Dalsano, 62 games between 2014 and 16, 322 all up. Doesn't get mentioned much, but was also part of the Brent Harvey, Drew Petrie, and Michael Ferrito delistings. Players that were told a couple of weeks before the season finished, including finals, that their contracts wouldn't be renewed. Now they had a short spell at North, but he played in some big games. Was a big game player and had a beautiful left foot, Jesse.
Oh, he was a fantastic player, especially at his prime. And he played some very good games for North, absolutely. It was probably a tad he was probably the second one, obviously way behind Harvey, but to be unlucky in terms of having his contract ended. I thought he wasn't too bad. I thought his form was actually pretty good. The other two probably form was letting them, they were starting to drop off significantly in form. But look, he had an absolute impact at the club. Probably third behind Waite and Higgins. I think they're probably the two out of the. I think they probably had better careers at North than he did, marginally in Waite's case. I think Higgins was obviously the best of the pick. But, yeah, look, he was a fantastic player. He chose us. He had offers from other clubs. And, he was a great player. And I think he still has a soft spot for North.
Dean, did you mention Farron Ray?
Yeah, I did mention Farron Ray. Played 4 games in 2016. Yes. Frank, any fond stories of Farron Ray?
Yes, I went over to Adelaide to watch us play against the Crows, and he got subbed out when the ball hit him in the head.
Concussion.
He got subbed out with concussion when the ball hit him in the head.
I do remember that vaguely,
Yeah, I was actually there in the outer when that happened, and I thought that might be the last game he ever plays.
I think it probably was.
I didn't hear you mention Mason Wood, or am I stealing thunder?
No, I go from players that are crossed from Saints to North. Yeah, not from North. We've had Luke Delaney and Matthew Capuano.
Jesse Smith.
Jesse Smith. He never played a game for St Kilda. Had big problems with injuries.
Christian Bardsley, Lazar Vidovic, Jason Trianides.
Oh, did they play at North? No, they never played at North.
They played under 19s.
Yeah, under 19s. Yes. Yeah, they did too. Very good there, Frank.
Yeah, and then all went over to the Saints. So, blast from the past there, Dean.
Yeah, Jason Trianides had a beautiful left foot, Frank.
He did. They all played senior footy for St Kilda in, at different levels, but they were all under 19 graduates from the Pagan era.
There you go. Oh, there you go. But Nick Dalsano, not a bad player though, Frank.
Look, I think he came over and did what we hoped he would do. Sort of, added a bit of experience. Look, I think it's fair to say he played his best football at St Kilda, but I don't think we recruited him thinking that he was going to make the All-Australian team. He was there for a bit of experience and stuff, and I think he provided that. So that's one that I'd happily tick off as a good one. And as far as draft capital, cost us nothing. More importantly,
he's free agent. Yeah.
Yep.
Dom. I mean, he had those. He had some big finals games. I remember that Geelong game. We won by a goal while they were steaming home. He was very good in that game. Kicked a nice goal
Huge.
from the boundary. So
Huge in the Essendon comeback as well.
Yeah, that's right,
That
yeah.
final as well. He was great. Yeah, I got a soft spot for Nicky Dowell. I think he was before Higgins or after?
Year before.
Yeah. So and I kind of had this distinct memory of like it's only like a handful of games that Higgins and Nicky Dowell actually played with together as well. Like, or there was like a combination of like Harvey, Nicky Del Santo, and Higgins that we actually had the best of them all in the one team. It was always one of them, was injured or something. But I got a soft spot for him, and I think he's well and truly a St Kilda boy. But yeah, I think he wouldn't shy away from signing a North jumper if a kid ran up to him.
No, definitely not. I might get my jumper and get him a sign at there, Dom. So, no, he was one of my favourites there. But even though it was a very short period of time, like Jesse said, I think he had another year left in him with Boomer Harvey. I think Boomer Harvey could still play now and would be in our best players. But, we'll go to the last time we played the Saints. It was round 8 last year, lost by 38 points. McKercher and Fisher with 30 touches each. Harry Sheasel with 24 that day. I'm going to ask you, boys, do you remember the last time we beat the Saints, Jesse? I could tell you.
So I can I. I could
Go
tell
on,
you.
Frank.
What was the crowd that day, Dean?
Oh, there was no crowd.
COVID.
Yeah,
Correct.
COVID was really
We had a big
hitting.
last quarter. Ben Cunnington had a huge last quarter. From
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
He had an absolute. Yeah, because his start to the year, he had that game. Then we played the Giants up.
Yeah, it was about 3 months
north.
later.
Yeah, 3 months later. But and I think Cunners was like best two in those games before obviously he went down with cancer. So that's a while ago. It was a great comeback.
Yeah.
We had a close game under when we had Rats as coach from memory. And I think we had a close game.
There was a game a couple of years ago. It might have been under Ratton where I reckon we got about 16 points in front in the last quarter or maybe late in the third. Taron Thomas kicked a great goal over his shoulder from about 40 out and it put us about 16 or 17 points in front. But I'm pretty sure that was late in the third. And then they might have kicked a late one and then ran over the top of us in the last quarter. We lost by 4 goals.
Okay, I can't remember that one. So
Yeah, I think it was 2023 St Kilda versus North Melbourne, and we lost by 8 points. It was you weren't far off, Frank. It was we took a really good lead going into the last quarter, and then it was death by 1,000 cuts from there.
Yep.
sounds about right.
Yep.
Now, does anyone else know who played really well that game? He had a lethal left foot on the wing. Whoever wants to go in first.
Oh, I'm going to say I was going to say Mason Wood. Was he still there?
No, it wasn't Mason Wood. No.
Lethal left foot on the wing.
Yeah.
It wasn't Jared Pollock.
It was Jared Pollock. Jesse, well done. 25 touches.
You said
520. It was beautiful left foot, Jesse. It was 526 metres gained. I was pretty good with the social distancing, so it makes sense for him to start that game.
My next guess was going to be Aaron Hall.
Oh,
He played that game.
Yeah.
A couple other players that played that game, Tom Murphy, halfback flanker, Jasper Pittard, and Paul Ahern.
well, I think Paul Murphy was one that we might have gone a little bit early on.
Tom
to
Murphy.
Be honest. Yeah, Tom Murphy, Tom. It doesn't matter what his name was. He's gone now, but I think he might have been one we went a little bit early on. There was a couple of players I think we went a little bit early.
Yeah,
on,
well, he showed a little bit. I only probably played 10 to 12 games, but he was part of that big cull. Was it end of 2021? We delisted about 14 players. It was something like that, and with Majak Dor and a number of others. So unfortunately, he was let go. He was only probably 21, 22. He did show a bit, like you said, Jesse. So Anyways, we'll move forward to team changes. We'll get your thoughts here, Jesse. Before we go through them all, what do you think about the team changes? We've might get a debutant in Geordie Payne, but Cooper Harvey comes back into the side. Nick Larkey is back from his injury as well. Jai Simpkin is out injured, but Are you happy with that, or are you a little bit
No,
disappointed?
they're rubbish.
Yeah, I'm a bit
I don't know.
underwhelmed.
I'm not going to sugarcoat it. The fact that there's been no selection integrity after a 100-point loss is an absolute is farcical. It's and the only reason Payne's getting a look in is because Simka was injured. From the sounds of it, earlier in the day, apparently he was no chance. I don't how are you no chance? He had a fantastic game in the VFL. He's had a few fantastic games in the VFL, and they just won't look at him. And apparently, the reason they haven't looked at him is because they feel that he's too similar to Constanti. Well, Constanti hasn't done anything. How many goals has he kicked this year?
10.
Well,
Yeah, 10.
10.
Yeah.
And how many games has he played?
He's played them all. So how many have we played? 20, haven't we?
He got subbed out though, so there's maybe that's something.
You got to give people a shot. It frustrates me that he hasn't given a game. I don't know. People are calling for Braden George. I understand. Look, it was his first game playing on the wing, and I thought he played a really good game on the wing. I'm happy for him to play another game on the wing. That's okay. But it just like Logan Daniel are on the field. Are we not questioning Daniel at all? Is the coaching panel? And I've been, very, very pro on Daniel. So, I'm not. But
He refuses to play on a player.
Like, unless they're intending on playing him on someone else this week, in another position, then I don't know what the hell we're doing. Like, we're just going to let it get. We're just going to lose doing the same thing over and over and over and over.
Yeah, I mean, it's the definition of insanity.
It is.
There's only one enforced change, and that's Finbar Malley. I don't think you can blame him for a 100-point loss. Yeah. I know he didn't star or shine, and Nick Larkey comes back in, takes his spot. But, yeah, I mean, the standards they're setting even with selection integrity are pretty poor, Frank. And I know we don't know what goes on behind closed doors, but I think the message, to me, seems like it's pretty similar to the public, like it is behind closed doors. It's uninspiring.
Dean, how you could be 106 points down at three-quarter time and your only unforced change is a forward is beyond me. How there seems to be no responsibility for what we threw up on Saturday. And I could have made an argument for probably 6 changes, and I understand not many clubs do that, make 6 unforced changes. But you could have made an argument to have played Whitlock. He would have gone up against Taru, similar body, similar age, wouldn't have exposed him to, a dominant backman that could have dinted his confidence. So you could have made an argument for that. Could have made an argument for Payne and George. But yet the only one that we make is Finbar, which I get, fair enough. But that seems like it seems like the tail wagging the dog to me. The back line has been basically kept intact.
Yeah, pretty much has. I think they've it's tall still. Combin, Lowe, Pink, Will Dawson is on the bench.
I would have thought, Dean, on the strength of the performance on Saturday, you want to find out whether Eddie Ford can play as a backman. Yeah. I mean, we're playing him there week in, week out in the VFL. He's throwing up decent numbers, like we did with Cooper Harvey. Find out if the guy warrants an extension next year and give him a role at half-back. Could he throw up anything worse than what we witnessed on Saturday?
I don't think he could. I mean, this pretty much puts a line through Eddie Ford's career at North Melbourne, you'd have to think now.
Yeah, I would have thought so. And I don't think any of us are blaming Will Dawson for a 100-point loss as well, right? So, why, if he gets dropped and Lowe gets put in, like I'd rather lose to St Kilda playing the kids and giving, Dawson the exposure that, that Clarko so, dutifully spoke about in the press conference today, than Griffin Logue be playing and Dawson out of the team. So yeah, it's really unfortunate, and I agree that Ford probably deserves at least one crack. Another player that, if we knew that he wasn't going to offer anything on the list, we haven't developed him into something that was of value for another club so that we could trade it for something that we actually did need. So yeah, sorry, I feel like I'm digging the boots in the club at the moment. I'm sorry, but yeah, just these are the failures that I talk about that are just not excusable anymore for as far as I'm concerned.
No, look, it's hard to be positive. It really is. As supporters, they put up. We're the shareholders of the club. We pay our memberships. Some of us, Jesse, you pay the Premiership Club membership. We pay a lot of money for that. So we're the shareholders. We have a right to at least question where this club is going.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We are the shareholders. If this was any other business, we'd be not investing.
Yep.
We would be asking serious questions.
I would have sold, Jesse.
Wow.
And I would have lost a lot of money.
Well, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
And look, I think, Marnie said it really, really well. I just don't think the club has been engaging enough with its fans and honest enough with us around where we're at and where we're going. It just doesn't seem like they're, I understand the messaging we're sending externally, etc. But I just don't think that they're just not being transparent enough. I'd rather them come out and say, you know what, we're actually, we're a few years off. We think that we need to improve here. I'd rather just be honest about what we're not good at.
At least, was it even Mafia? At least he tried. Didn't know what he was talking about, but
let's not go that far.
Yeah, but at least he came out in the media and spoke. The
whole reason we're in this mess, to be fair, is, and I have a go at him every single week, Cam Joyce. But Cam Joyce, Ben Buckley, and Mafia, those three are the holy trinity when it comes to, the unholy trinity.
Yeah.
Oh, they ruined our club. We are what we are because of those three men.
Yeah, well, Ben Buckley, he resided in Sydney, working from there. So
he was a disgrace.
Especially when you're coming from, Carl Delina and oh my God, I'm going to forget it. I've forgotten his name. The previous CEO before that, he was an absolute jet super. No, he was president. The CEO while Brayshaw was president.
Eugene Arocca.
Yeah. Like those guys were they were great. Like and there's an interview with Sonia Hood that Marnie did that she talks about them as well. And just to come from that to where that middle period and then where we are now, it's pretty tough. Pretty tough.
No, definitely. We'll get back to team changes. I mean, Frank, they've got an infatuation with players. Jacob Castanti, I think Jesse said, well, he's a similar player to Geordie Payne. At least Geordie Payne has a bit of an attitude. He's a bit of a smart-ass out on the football field, and he actually looks like he gives a shit. I don't see much of it, I don't think you're losing much by playing Geordie Payne ahead of Jacob Castanti, but I have a feeling they're going to pick Castanti again this week.
Yeah, but does he shush the crowd when we're 90 points down, Dean, and he kicks a goal? That's the big question.
Embarrassing.
Look, he should have been dropped after that game.
I know, correct. He should have been. But I get the Castanti why they're playing him because defensively he's very good. Saturday maybe not so much, but nobody was. But the problem is, I think, as a small forward, you can bring all the defensive pressure you want, but at some point you've got to kick goals. And he just doesn't do enough of that. He's not evasive. He's not clever. He doesn't take those half chances and kick goals. And so to just rely on your defensive pursuits, that's a hard hill to climb. And I just don't see enough of it to say, mate, his spot is absolutely locked in. So I would much rather see Geordie Payne, a guy that we went and got with the first pick in the mid-season draft. So clearly someone on the talent management list thought that he was worth it. And we haven't even given the kid a chance. And there's 4 games left. If he doesn't play this week, what kind of look are we going to get at him to see whether he's actually a senior footballer? It just, I don't know, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I would have thought where we are as a club at the moment, and after that effort, let's find out who stays next year and who doesn't.
I mean, Jesse, if Geordie Payne doesn't get picked this week, then it's pretty much you're putting a line through his career, aren't you?
Oh, no. If there isn't one already, then yeah, 100%.
Yeah, well, it's probably 70, 80% there already, to be honest with you.
That's what my thoughts are. I think there already is a line through his name for whatever reason.
No, Jesse, we'll name him one more time in the Richmond game down in Tassie and possibly make him the sub.
bring him on late.
Bring him
Blake
on
Drury.
late. Yeah. So he can do his lap around the ground in front of his mates and then delist him.
It's not great. It's not great. I just think we had a much better opportunity this year to just give a lot of people a game and give get a look at people, and we haven't. We just haven't taken that opportunity. We're trying to play the same team over and over and over, and it's tiring.
And Jesse, and I get it if the blokes on half back are Wanganeen Malira and the forward pocket's got Tom Papley in it or something like that, and you go, mate, the kid we couldn't justify it. But there's nothing all Australian or even semi decent holding these kids out for their opportunity. So
nah,
I don't get why they're not getting that chance.
It's a bit bizarre.
Yeah.
Dom, are you happy to see George Wardlaw back this week? I mean, he's been pretty good in the reserves the last couple of weeks, but geez, I hate for him to get a concussion. Touch wood.
If he gets injured, that would be a disaster, an absolute disaster. Look, yes, happy to see him, and look, he will offer so much more in that midfield around pressure than anyone else. So I hope that means that I hope he's fit enough to play at least 80% game time. I hope it means that Parker doesn't necessarily get as much CBAs as what he has been. Look, I can't fault the club for putting him in. I think he's one of our best players and he deserves to be in. He still needs development and exposure. So let's get him in there. I just hope he's careful with that head because to risk it all for 4 weeks to go is probably a big gamble. I just hope he's careful.
We can only hope and pray, really. The last 4 weeks, nothing happens to him, Jesse. Yeah. But I mean, Dom mentioned Luke Parker there. 23 CBAs last week. He seems to be getting a lot of CBAs. This last month, surely you've got to find out if you want to play Finn O'Sullivan there more next year. It was very good in the last quarter last week. You might want to try a couple other players, maybe Harry Sheaves for a few more CBAs. This is a time where you've got to experiment with these sorts of things. You've got to have one eye on the future and not just think about the now and trying to put in a competitive performance against St Kilda this week.
No, 100%. 100%. Why are we playing a guy who's got, in the twilight of his career in the guts? I can understand maybe against Geelong, you put him against good opposition. But nevertheless, there was an opportunity to play O'Sullivan in the midfield more this year, not just on the weekend. There's an opportunity to play McKercher in the middle. Haven't played him once. It's just bizarre to me. It just seems like I think there's almost this mindset of we're just going to play the same group of people for 22 games. We want to build up, stability and them playing with one another. But the problem is, if they're not good enough, they're not good enough. It's just as simple as that, in my mind.
No, you pretty much summed it up really well there. Zane Duursma, Frank, now he's playing a little bit off half-back. Now, he got a fair bit of the ball last week, 12, 13 times, I think it was, maybe even more, I can't remember. But, he is a natural forward, inside forward 50. But are you happy to just see him get games into the kid?
Yeah, I am, Dean. I think just to get his confidence up and his touch, that's the one spot we're probably going okay in, that mid-sized forward with Curtis and Zerha. So I can understand why they might think, well, he's very similar to those two and maybe that makes us too predictable. I think he's the kind of kid, he's got the talent. We know that. And maybe it's just a matter of exposing him to senior footy, put him behind the ball. I've got no problem with him playing at halfback, provided he plays a halfback role and he's not just wandering around like some of our defenders without an opponent. But I would do anything just to see if we can develop that hunger and that desire to want to play senior footy in him. I'm happy to do that at the moment.
No, definitely. Dom, do you think Zach Banch will be our key target and we'll target him more than 7 times this week as a big marking key forward, get out kick?
Oh, God. Oh, Jesus. Did not Geelong sell the candy with that one? Just put him out there enough that he was a tempting target and then just continually to intercept it. And we just kept falling for it. I reckon by like the second time we'll be like, something's going on here, right? The 160 centimeter kid in his second game should not necessarily be our number one target going out of defensive 50. It was pretty hard. Interesting that like he was finding himself that loose and whatever. But yeah, pretty shocking that we kept falling for it at the same time.
No, we seem to do that. Jesse, any chance Will Phillips will play this week? I think he's been named emergency, but surely he's not going to be in the club next year. Why are you sort of putting him in as emergency? It doesn't make too much sense. I would have rather just seen Eddie Forden as emergency.
Oh, absolutely. If he's not going to be there, and it looks pretty confident now that we've put a line through, his name. I just don't know why you're bothering. What is there to gain out of it?
I don't know.
It's just nothing. There's just nothing to gain out of it. It's just another terrible decision.
Unless they think Park is not fit or carrying something.
Yeah, 100%. But there is an opportunity this week to play other players in the midfield. And I think they've already put a line through Phillips, so I'd be trying some of those other players. It just seems a bit senseless to mine, but it's not the only senseless thing we're doing. So, look. It'll be interesting to see what the final team is. Someone has to put time into Wanganeen. Someone has to play a defensive game. I don't know who the hell it is, but someone has to do it.
Maybe Costanti.
I think it'll be probably Dylan Stevens. He'll probably get the first crack at it. Not that I'm suggesting that's going to work, but as far as size and the ability to run, he's probably the best, physical matchup. Defensively, I'd be a little bit concerned. But
if he plays at half back, I agree. We should put Constanti on him. If he plays at half back, I think that makes sense because that works with Dale. But I think he's going to do a lot of midfield time because he's played a bit of midfield time the last month in particular, especially on the weekend. And I think that they're going to throw him a lot more into the guts now because of the impact he's having. The funny one is we're focusing obviously a lot on Wanganeen. They've got McRae who racks it up, and they've got Sinclair who can be extremely damaging. Will probably have 50 and 3 goals against us. So we need to be accountable, and that's the one thing that we're incompetent with, being accountable. I actually think that's our biggest flaw, is that our players don't want to be accountable. It's not skill. Yeah. There's a lot of players out there with enough skill. It's just that they don't take account. They're not accountable. They don't feel accountable for their actions on the field. They don't feel like there's any repercussions.
I think that we talked about this off air, Dom, that all our players seem to be ball hunters. They don't seem to be worrying about the next passage in play. They all seem to just run to the ball. You've seen players like Bailey Smith last week, Isaac Heaney, big game players, have had really good years, A-grade players. We just let them do what they want because it's so easy to get possession and space against North Melbourne. I think that's a great point by Jesse. No one, they give one effort to the ball carrier and that's it. They got nothing else left.
Yeah, and that's. Well, I mean, I think that's as members why we're so confused about the Will Phillips thing because he's the only one that wants to get in there and get the ball outside of George Wardlaw, right? And one of the big things that I saw with the the Geelong game as well was they're outside standing on the offensive side of the contest, not even balancing out the defensive side. So yeah, it's very, very frustrating and a big shift from where we were. What was it? When we went to WA and we, played that so well against Freo, where it was a heavy contested, team defense style football game.
And even, Dom, touching on what you just said, the amount of times our defenders got lured to the ball on Saturday night, like they were playing, it was like they were playing footy at lunchtime at school, and they just wandered up the ground, waiting for the handball received, completely unaware where their direct opponent was. It was just kind of like it was all or nothing. Either we won the ball or if it got turned over, we got scored on. And it was just bizarre.
Yeah, and even in that situation, how many times we outnumbered Geelong at the contest and still lost the contest.
And still lost it. It was just bizarre. It was almost like they were luring us in there knowing all we need to do is push this ball over the top and we're out. and it just kept happening. And I'm looking at it thinking, a couple of times the ball came down the member's wing, and 2 defenders ran to the bloke who was about to take the mark. Thinking, well, I mean, you don't both need to spoil him. It was just really, really odd, some of the behaviours.
Yep.
Yeah. No, look, it's been a very positive podcast so far, but that's sort of the way it goes. It is a difficult time, that's for sure. Jesse, we'll go to a bit more positivity. Maybe a potential match winner you have for us this week. Someone that can turn his club around.
Oh, match winner.
Mason Wood.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
Oh, jeez. No, look, the one thing for me is going to be, I would love for them to give O'Sullivan and McKercher a lot more midfield time. It looks like more likely to be O'Sullivan, but I'd love for him to get a bit of midfield time because I really think he could have an impact in there. Just add something a bit different. I think we need to win it out of the middle, and we generally do, but we need to win it out of the middle and be damaging. That's what we're struggling at. If we can win it, because we win the ball enough out of the middle, that's not our problem. It's being damaging with it. We need to find a midfielder who can win the ball and be damaging. Do you know one name, and this is probably an indictment on his own form, one name that I don't think any of us have mentioned on this podcast once?
John?
Harry Sheasel.
Well, that's a good point, but no. I'm talking about our
Tom.
highest paid player.
Caleb
LDU.
Yeah.
I was talking about LDU.
Yeah.
We haven't said, I don't think we've mentioned his name. We've mentioned Sheasel once. We've mentioned blah, blah, blah once. I don't think any of us have said LDU once on this podcast. And
No, we haven't mentioned him.
And we're paying him $1.6 million. Probably he's on 2.5 this year, probably, because it'd be front ended. But he's on $1.6 million a year. What's he doing?
Right.
Yeah, he only had 20 touches. He was coasting last week, having a giggle and a laugh with the opposition as well. So.
Mate,
I don't think we should. I don't think we should have kept him. I'm going to be unpopular saying that, but he's not worth $1.6 million. He's nowhere near worth $1.6 million. He was in that patch of form he had at the back end of last year, but at no stage this year has he looked like a $1.6 million player. He is absolutely coasting. He needs someone to give him an absolute rocket. And get him back to being in some form because he's irrelevant at the moment.
That's
the best way of putting it. He is irrelevant.
I think you're right. He's coasting. Yeah.
Well, we haven't spoken about him. He's one. How can we not be speaking about our player, our highest paid player, who's really the captain of that midfield? We're talking about we need to get Wardlaw in there. We need to get so and so in there. We haven't even mentioned him. He's a one-dimensional player who can only play midfield. He's our highest-paid player, and he's doing nothing. He was probably the only one who had capital.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah. Dom, anything to add to that?
A match winner or about LDU?
Oh, both. We'll go with both.
Yeah. Look, I've laid the boots into LDU throughout the year, so I'll reserve my right to hold back for this time round. But I think, everything that Jesse just said there is right. And, sort of reflecting on it, he's 100% right. Our expectations need to be high. Not when, Bailey Smith's out there getting 43, right? So we obviously weren't paying any attention to him. So surely LDU could have been out there, running with him or challenging him. Look, I'm going to go a bit left of field with in terms of match winner. I'm going to go around what I would love to see from a development perspective. And we spoke about Wanganeen Miller before and who might go on him. I reckon we play Dersma on him and just go be with him the whole day. If he pushes forward, go with him, you become a defender. If he's on the wing, you become a wingman. If he's playing in defence, be accountable to him. Make sure he's on your ass if you're doing a lead. But if he takes off, you're on him. And I think this could be an opportunity for Dersma to see what it takes to be one of the best in the league. And if you want to be a player who's touted as being one of the most future highest paid in the league, this is what it's going to take. And I'd happily sacrifice, probably what will be a really good game for Wanganeen Miller in that case for the development of Dersma to see whether or not he's willing to lift himself up.
Not a bad shout there, Dom. Yeah, giving the young kid responsibility, he might thrive on that sort of challenge. Frank, any thoughts on LDU and a potential match winner?
LDU, look, I was looking at some of the stats earlier today, Dean, and you'd probably be surprised that out of LDU, Wardlaw, Parker, Sheasel, and did I say Power? None of them average, I think, over 68% disposal efficiency. And Wardlaw's actually our worst, I think, at about 56%. Every fourth disposal's a turnover. So I'm just saying that to not. I don't want to isolate LDU and go, mate, everyone else is flying. He's the one dragging the chain. I think it's rife throughout the entire midfield that the effort's just not there and the urgency. And he's fallen into that hole with the others. Now, whether they can all lift up and put in a Carlton-like effort that we did on the MCG, which seems eons away that we played like that. I think maybe that will lift the group, but it's not an isolated incident, I guess, is what I'm saying, is that there's a real problem there with the midfield and their urgency. As far as match winners go, I don't really have one, Dean, but I think a lot of it will come down to whether Bryn Teakle can effectively hold that ruck spot or maybe even kick a few against Rowan Marshall. I think if he can break even, that might hold us in the game for longer. If Marshall gets on top of him, what Grundy did, it could turn ugly. So that's one I'll probably watch with a bit of interest.
Inflatable Cactus has come into the chat. It's been a seriously frustrating year for Wardlaw. Played only around 10 games. Needs to work on his tackle. Needs to work on his staying fit and not doing soft tissue injuries and getting concussions. That would be a start. But thanks for coming in, Inflatable Cactus. Jesse, what's your final prediction for this week?
You know what? Pre the Melbourne game, I had Melbourne in this game absolutely penciled in. I thought, you know what, we'll beat these two teams. Now, oh God, I'd be happy to. There is still a part of me that says we should be winning this game. And if we're serious of being a football club, and if we're serious about wanting to respond after last week, we win this game. I think we lose. And the problem is, I think that if we lose, it'll be at least 5 goals, because I think they'll just run over the top of us. They'll be too quick around the ground. They've got some genuine pace, and they've got some weapons up forward. Like Higgins might kick 15 on us.
Yeah, I don't know who's going to match up on him, to be honest with you.
No one. Put Caleb Daniel.
No, he doesn't play on the players. He doesn't want to take responsibility. He'll take responsibility if they kick out to turn it over. But like Kingy sort of mentioned a number of times, he's got to stop taking the kick outs.
Look, it obviously helps having Larky back. That makes a massive difference.
Yeah.
It shouldn't make this big of a difference having him and Tristan out. It just shouldn't make this big of a difference, but it has.
Yeah, well, it's a big game for Bryn Teakle. I think Franklin, you just spoken about him before. It's last game before Tristan Sherry comes back. So, yeah, it could be a career-defining game for him because he's out of contract at the end of the year. You've got to make decisions on whether to keep him or not. So we'll have to wait and see. Dom, your final prediction?
I think if Sherry's playing this game, we win. It would be close, but I reckon he's probably the difference that we're going to be missing this week because, whilst, Marshall played a good game last week, I think, Tristan would have dominated him around the ground and in that centre bounces. But unfortunately, I can't see us winning it. I just don't think. I think they'll be riding a wave of confidence after that comeback. I think... we'll be pretty bruised and battered after our game, and it'll probably be north of somewhere between 24 and 30 points loss in is my guesstimate.
Frank, any different thoughts here with the final prediction?
No, not really, Dean. I guess the only thing that I go to the game on Sunday with hope is that you got to remember they were 46 points down against Melbourne, so. I know the narrative completely swung in half an hour to the most amazing comeback ever, but I wonder how much of that was on Melbourne's head. The fact that they did get 46 points in front and look completely comfortable and then, completely, choked it. But again, I don't think it's going to be enough for us to win it. So I'd like to think that we can stay with them, maybe 18 points at the end.
Hopefully we can get a response. That's the most important thing.
Yeah.
Not just have a social game of football where everyone's giggling and laughing and not really caring. No, that's the most important thing. Hopefully we've got we'll have a little bit of attitude, and I think Geordie Payne would bring that, but we'll have to wait and see when he gets selected. But listen, boys, I think I've held you up long enough tonight. Jesse, any final thoughts?
No, look, hopefully Payne plays and he's not the sub. That would be really, really positive. That would give us fans something to look forward to. They've got to try some different stuff. If we roll out there with the same players in the same positions, I just don't think we can expect a response. We can't just be going through every week expecting a response. I think we've got to try something different. This is an opportunity to do that against a team who we can beat. We can beat. On our day, we can beat.
Yeah, well, it was a fair point by Frank, though. 46 points down at three-quarter time to a very average team, Melbourne. So you never know. Dom, any final thoughts?
Look, so many times teams, rise to the occasion against us. We seem to be the ones that can get players and teams back into form. I just hope it's us this week that we're the ones that can rise to the occasion. That's more hope than confidence speaking, but would love to see a response after a fairly big drubbing last week. So fingers crossed for that.
It's certainly, a lot of things crossed with that in regard to that. Frank, any final messages out there?
No, Dean, just I'll head out there on Sunday, hope for the best. Well, certainly for a big improvement and see how we go. And hopefully it's a different podcast next week.
Hope for the best. Expect the worst, though, Frank. So
that's it.
Yeah. No expectations, no disappointments. So
yeah, true.
We'll see how we go. Jesse, thanks so much for coming on tonight. I'll try and get you back on next week.
Thank you.
Dom, really appreciate you coming on tonight. Thanks so much. Try and get you back on next week as well.
Thank you. Good to be
here. And Frank, always a pleasure, mate. Thanks for coming on.
Pleasure's all mine, Dean. Thank you.
And thank you to all your listeners as well. Don't forget, like, subscribe, leave a comment, tell your friends about the show. That's it from me and the boys. I'll be back on Monday or either Tuesday next week to review our game against the Saints. Until then, bye for now and go Roos.